Hi and welcome to the show. Considered Zimbabwe's most renowned and internationally recognized cultural icon, my next guest is a musician, businessman, philanthropist, human rights activist, and UNICEF Goodwill ambassador for the Southern African region. He has toured around the world performing to hundreds of thousands of fans, and his husky voice has become the most recognized sound to emerge from Zimbabwe onto the international scene. Oliver Tuku Mtukudzi, welcome to The Scoop. Tuku, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to come here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I know you're a very busy man. You've just told me how many times you've performed globally. So it's an honor to have you here. Tuku, tell me about early years. Growing up in Zimbabwe, born in Zimbabwe. Tell me a little bit about what it was like back then. It was a very different Zimbabwe to what it is now.
Well, yes, it was a different Zimbabwe, and of course, as a young baby, you get to learn where you're born from. And I remember a lot of things that we used to do. We didn't have a radio by then, so all entertainment was just done by either parents or the elderly people in the neighborhood.
And your parents, I mean, you come from a musical background, so your parents were into music as well.
Oh yes, oh yes.
So tell me a little bit about them, your dad, your mom.
Yeah, they actually met at a choir competition.
Ah.
And
church choir? Was that the main choirs that have
school choirs?
Okay.
School choirs. And they carried that competition home. And they used to compete. Mom would sing her song and dad would sing her song. And ask us children to be the judges and who is a better performer. So I think
they competed against each other.
Yes, just like they did when they So we used to say, okay, if you need favors from mom, then mom is a better performer at the time. If you need favors from dad, then likewise.
So you know which one to butter up a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Were you involved, or your family involved in the struggle for independence? Did some of the things that you sang?
I mean, in Zimbabwe, I don't think there was one who was not involved in the struggle, because when you are oppressed, oppressors don't oppress one section of the people and leave the other. No, everybody else is just wants the good life. So no one really you can say wasn't involved in the struggle. No.
What are your memories from that time? I mean, going to segregated schools, going to not being allowed in certain places. Was it as bad as South Africa's apartheid system?
I think, according to my parents, who really suffered that, as children, we didn't know whether this is
right or wrong or different.
No, I mean, we just wanted to go to school. Whatever school is there is what we used to know. We didn't know there was a better school. But of course, parents knew that we're not allowed to be in the first street. You can't buy beer. You have to go to your beer halls in the townships. But we didn't know that. We just children living a life, and we lived a life we knew, and that was all.
When did you go to the first beer? When did you have your first beer?
I've never had my beer.
No, really? You don't drink at all?
No,
fantastic.
Not at all. I think the most disappointing point that my father had with me in music is when we stole his clothes and put on, and because we were not, as youngsters, we were not allowed in the beer hall, and there was a band called Harare Mambos that used to play in the nearby beer hall. And I took my young brother, we went there, and Mr. Jangano gave me a chance to get hold of an electric guitar on stage. And me and my brother, and we played there, and people were happy. Now, the next day, my father's friends told my father that, oh, your son was in the beer hall, was playing for us, it was very good. And that's when.
So did he whip you first?
Oh yes.
First he had to do that.
That's the only time I was hit by my father.
But then he became.
Yeah.
How are they still around, you folks?
No, they're all late now.
But proud of you? They really.
Oh yes. By the time because my father passed away in 1986.
So he saw you perform for the best part of over a decade.
Yes.
People who inspired you musically as you grew up, some of the people that the music that you heard?
My parents, like I said before, my parents were the first inspiration really to make me feel, I need to do this, I need to do this. And I remember, I think I was around 10, 11 years, somewhere there, when I performed for my parents, trying to imitate what they do when they perform to me. And I did that on a table. I stood up on a table, and I was never smugged for standing on a table. I performed so well that they were happy. But the next day, that's when my mom said, next time you don't stand on a table. But I know my mother was was a strict person, and I'm sure she would have smugged me if she didn't enjoy what I did. So those were my first inspirations.
And other musicians that inspired you as you grew older?
Oh yes, by then 1958 was when we had our first radio station in Zimbabwe.
That was the Rhodesia Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes, right. RBC, yes. And we started hearing music from outside the country. And during that time, we started enjoying music from other places, and that sort of built passion in us in trying to be enjoying other people. So yes, there were a lot of American music, British music, like the Beatles, soul music like Otis Redding, Arthur Conley, Wilson Pickett, and I started enjoying that. But because we didn't have a radio at home, and the whole community, one businessman had a radio. So we used to go out to his shop at the shopping center to listen to radio.
And did you get a chance to ever perform with any of your idols that you listened to growing up? You've just mentioned some of the names. Have you ever performed with them after?
I've performed with Taj Mahal, somebody I used to listen to and never expected to actually perform, just to see him and greet him.
How do young artists, what is the advice you would give young artists coming up now, wanting to, a lot of them look up to you, you're an inspiration to many of them. What advice would you give them in order to protect their career?
Well, my first advice I would say is try and identify yourself first. Do you have it? Are you following your passion, or you are being you? Because God doesn't duplicate talent. It's you and you alone. And there's no better you than you. And if you don't do you, then the whole world has lost you. Now, first and foremost, in fact, parents should be involved. They should help their children identify themselves. And if one does who he is, he's got no competition. Now, if you are meant to be a singer, you got no competition because you're the only one who can do what you do. That's first point. And the moment you become an artist, automatically you're a business person.
Touring around the continent, you have a massive following in Africa. What are some of the messages that you want to put out there?
If we are to be self-disciplined enough to respect the next person, I don't think we would have any problems, because we will be treating others like we want them to treat us. But the problem, we are not self-disciplined enough to do that. We are affected by alien ideologies that come into us, and we ignore our cultural rules and definitely shun them down and start doing, concentrating on rules that we don't even understand.
We'll be right back with Tuku Mtukudzi. Stay with me. Hi, welcome back. I'm here with Oliver Tuku Mtukudzi. Tuku, you've had personal tragedy as well. How is that
Yes.
forged and shaped your life? If you want to talk about that,
Well,
you lost band members, you lost your brother,
son, I lost,
your son,
yeah.
but your brother also, Robert,
Yes.
to HIV. Did the HIV deaths really change your the way you wanted to focus your energy and your strength in terms of spreading the message
No, I
around the
think I
continent?
was one of the very few artists in Zimbabwe who had an advantage to know the disease earlier. Well, the Health Organization came to Zimbabwe. They wanted me to write a song about the disease, and I didn't know the disease, and so they gave me a lot of literature to go through so that I come up with a song that will at least be an awareness song. And I wrote a song called Stay With One Woman. And I was lucky they chose this song because they went around countries looking for somebody who can come up with a song. And my song was taken by the World Health Organization. They wanted me to perform the song in Switzerland. And when I got to Switzerland to perform that song, that's when I actually saw people who are affected with HIV, who are already, it was already AIDS. And I discovered and God explained how the disease is being transmitted and so on. And I got to know the disease much earlier than any other. So when I got back home, I started writing songs of awareness about the disease. But still people didn't believe that it's the disease. There was stigma attached to it. And I continued writing songs about the stigma and so on. I lost about three members of the band in a space of 2 months to the disease, including my own young brother. But I had an idea of the disease already then. But people then never believed in that disease. They thought it's witchcraft, it's so and so. So no one really wanted to give an attention to it properly, to treat it just like any other disease. And that even pushed me to sing more about the disease, because I knew the disease was around and it was affecting and infecting a lot of people. So I continued writing about the disease. That's what pushed me to go there. But anyway, purpose of song is to give life and hope to the people. So it was part of it. So I carried on. And even the popular song that I wrote during the time of stigma, Todi, is a very popular song in the region, and it's a song designed to trigger discussion because people never wanted to talk about the disease. So this had questions like, okay, what would you do if your pregnant wife is HIV positive? What would you do? Would you divorce her? Would you run away? How would you know that you are not infected? You know, such things. And I'm glad that the song served its purpose because I've heard it being quoted in a lot of spheres. People talk about it.
Leadership in Africa. You're a UN Goodwill ambassador. That's a form of leadership. Your music, your songs inspire millions of young Africans. You've sung about big issues like HIV on the continent. But we still seem to be lacking in leadership in terms of political leadership on our continent. Where do you see the future of this continent?
Well, for as long as we inherit rules from aliens, we'll always have problems. If we can go back to the drawing board and be Africans and see how we used to live in the early days, I think we're going to take a much longer time to be the best of who we are. it's all about respecting each other. It's all about having passion to lead a good nation, to lead a good community. If you have that community at heart, you'll always be a better leader.
You have no desire to go up there, someone like Usain Dor and others, to try and get, use your music and the following you have to change a country.
Purpose of song is to give life and hope to the people, including the politicians. So my music is way above politics. I'm talking about, like I'm here, I'm lifting a Zimbabwean flag. It doesn't segregate, it doesn't have, I don't stand in for a particular class of Zimbabweans, no. This is for Zimbabwe and its politicians and its religion and everything. I'm representing everyone in Zimbabwe. When they do their politics, they are way under my flag. And if a politician comes here and you interview a politician, he's got his Zimbabwean flag, but it's representing his people.
His party and his policies.
Exactly, you see? So that's the difference, that we as artists, we can be good leaders because that's what we're born for, to give life and hope to people.
We'll be right back with Tuku Mtukudzi. Stay with me. Hi, welcome back. I'm here with Oliver Tuku Mtukudzi. Oliver, being a Goodwill ambassador, does that help you also spread, because you're not just for Zimbabwe, you're for the whole of Southern Africa.
Yeah, Eastern and Southern Africa.
And Eastern and Southern Africa, there you go. And so it's a big region, so you get to meet a lot of different people that do a lot of different things. You get to influence them and what they are thinking, how they're approaching certain problems, certain difficulties. How did you get the role at the UN, and well, how did that come about?
I was appointed by UNICEF. They appointed me to be a Goodwill ambassador for children, and I was glad that at least that they appointed me. It meant that they had seen what I'd been doing all along. And I was happy because I thought, oh, so somebody's recognizing what I'm doing. Because they wouldn't choose me if I wasn't in it already. So they appointed me to be like that. Yeah, I visited here, Kenya, I visited Uganda, Mozambique, South Africa.
And do you combine it with your role as performing as well?
Yes.
That's part of the thing. You don't go on official state visits, but you perform as well.
I perform as well. I visit the children, perform for them, and because that's the only way I can lure attention from the people. I perform and they listen. And during that listening, I give my message. I talk about what we should be, what direction I feel we should take. I'm not a genius, but the moment I've managed to mold one person to be respectful, then I've automatically taken off corruption, cruelty, disease, and so on. Yeah.
Speaking about kids, Tuku, you have 5 kids, you have grandkids already, even though you don't look old enough to have grandkids, but you do. 2 of your kids went into music. Yes. Your pressure on them or their own choice?
No, not really. It was their own choice. Because I experienced pressure of being told
not to go into music.
Yeah, not to go. So I couldn't do that to my children. And I truly believe some come and say, oh, your children are following your steps. That's not true. I have my own steps, and my children have their own steps. God doesn't duplicate talent, so they can't be me. They had to be themselves. And unfortunately, I lost my son
Tell me about
2010. Sam was... I got to know him better when he passed on. when people were coming to pay their respect, all ages, kids from kindergarten to elderly people, drivers, you name it, coming to pay respect and saying, he was my friend, he was my friend. And I was thinking, what time did he do this? How did he make all these friends that I don't even know? But it proved to me that what he achieved in 10 years is something that I achieved in 40 years. And if he was following my footsteps, he wouldn't be that far. So he wasn't following my footsteps. He was on his own road. Yes, I do have a daughter who is also doing that, but she is doing her own footsteps. She's not even doing Sam's footsteps, she's doing her own, because that's how it is. God doesn't give the same talent to...
And the other three?
Yeah. The other three, they're into something else. One is a makeup artist. One is runs a saloon for kids. Yeah, and I'm glad it's all art.
Are they all in Zimbabwe, or are they scattered?
Yeah,
they're scattered everywhere.
They're all in Zimbabwe, yes.
And so you see for the future for your grandchildren as well to be on this continent. You want to send them off to some other place, to America or...
No, not really. Because I don't feel there's a better continent than Africa. I think if they grow up in Africa and get to learn who Africa is, and that will make them positive, and they won't feel inferior to any other culture.
The future, you're still a young man. I still say you're a young man. You have a long way to go. You've done so much in your life. You've achieved so much. What's next for Oliver Mtukudzi, personally, professionally?
I'm just a simple person. And if I can have another song, wow, I'll be very a happy person.
You're not writing still?
I am.
You're writing.
I'm writing. But some of them are not songs yet. Maybe it's just lyrics, but it's not a song yet. But if I can have another song that I'll be able to perform on the next stage, I'll be a happy person. And I'm very optimistic. The future of Africa is very bright. All we need is try and pass on good discipline to our children. We will never go wrong.
You once said life is not about regrets, it's about defeating challenges. Yes. I'm going to ask you, if you could do it all again, if I gave you a clean slate, any regrets, what would you change?
I got married to somebody I didn't even know, and I divorced. So to the youngsters, never ever get married to anyone you don't even understand. You'll always have problems in the future. So I regret that. Now I have my wife. I remarried and I got my wife, and
the person you do know. And
I do know, yeah, a person who do know me too.
Tuku, the show's called The Scoop. I ask all my guests to give me something about them. I know with a public figure like yourself, it's much harder. Something about you that nobody in the world knows, even your beloved wife. Wow, something that nobody knows about you.
Yo. Yeah, I really wanted to be an engineer. That's if I go back to school. I'd like to be.
When you go back to school, it's never too late.
Yeah, never. No time is too late for education. Yeah, when I go back to school, I think I'd like to be an engineer.
Any particular
Because right
type?
now I'm not doing a career. I'm doing me.
Any particular type of engineer?
Yeah, mechanical.
And that's the engineering scoop with Oliver Tuku Mtukudzi. Join me again next week when we'll be talking to yet another great African personality. From me and the entire team of The Scoop, from Nairobi, Kenya, Thanks for watching. Tuku, thanks
Thank
a
you
million,
very
my brother.
much.
Man, thank you so much
Thank you for
your
having me
time.
here.
Thanks for being so open. Thanks for
Thank
sharing this wonderful stories that you have
Thank you
and
very much.
an amazing life, you know. So thank you so much again.